And joining us now, she's the head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks. Of course, she's an Olympian, great player in her own right during her time. I speak of our good friend on the show, Jennifer McFalls, back with us. This has become a tradition, and I like that. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
It's doing good. It's a little cold, I know everybody, but we'll manage, right? Like before you know it, the season will get warmed up. Before we talk about this year's team, I want you to talk about last year's. You had a chance to reflect on last season. Won 25 games, the most wins since 2018 for Kansas. Just give me your thoughts on last year as you continued to build. Because I remember we spoke last year, and you were hoping if you could be healthy, you could surprise if some things broke right. Now you bring a lot of that nucleus back next year with some momentum. I felt like from last year. What do you reflect on from last year?
Absolutely. Last year, I definitely was really pleased with the way we finished out. I thought we competed really well just in conference play. We started off decently. I think we hit a little bit of a lull, like our third weekend when we were down in Florida, and my big thing is preaching to the girls all the time. Is just every game matters, and so when you're playing those preseason tournaments and you're playing some teams that you're normally not used to seeing, and maybe some days you're thinking, oh, we ought to get this win. Those are the games that jump up and kind of bite you in the end. And I think, quite honestly, that's what happened to us a little bit last year. We didn't get some early wins that we should have gotten, and to just really kind of give us a great jump start into conference play. But when we got into conference, I thought we really competed well. We had some good wins, but we didn't have enough of them. And we had we'd set ourselves up. I thought we competed really well. We went down to Texas and played, had a chance to take 2 out of 3. And obviously a team and program like that's going to find a way to scrap and find a way to get that W, and they did. So they ended up coming back and getting that second game off of us. But when we got to the Big 12 tournament, beating OSU, obviously, I think really is going to give us some momentum leading into next year or this year. Sorry. But overall, I was pleased but not satisfied, and I think we were so close. And I think now, most importantly, that all of our returning players realize the importance of every game, and that's just really our approach going into this spring season, is making sure we take one game at a time, one weekend at a time, using that to really prepare us and set us up well heading into conference play.
Yeah, you've got a pretty experienced group too. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, you had some youth still there, and that's part of learning how to win. And sometimes the youth you got to learn on the fly. I know patience is a big part of coaching, right? That's how do you the patience is sometimes you got to remember about the process because these are 18 to 22 year olds at the end of the day.
Yeah, quite honestly, this is probably the first year since I've been here that I feel like I've got a really veteran group that have now been with me for 3 and 4 years, that understand, my mentality, my approach. And I think they're ready. They're so much more prepared. And you're right. A big bulk of our team last year was still very, very young, the core of that team. And so the beauty of it is it was painful enough that they've responded really, really well. So we've had a great fall. We're in a good place. We're healthy, and the mindset is right. The work ethic, the culture of the program has just been outstanding this fall. I really couldn't have asked for a better culture, and the leadership of our upperclassmen. They know. I think they know now. Like, okay, this is what it means to really grind in the fall and get yourselves ready and set yourselves up for success. So I think our mentality and our approach, getting ready to kick off that first weekend at the NFCA tournament, is just we're in a good place. So, when you obviously we're starting off with Oregon, which is tremendous program, but I think most importantly, our group of returners now are kind of like, let's go. They're not scared, they're not intimidated. They're excited about the challenge. Obviously, great program and a really great challenge for us right out of the gate.
Yeah, I'll say so. You got Oregon, you got Indiana that first weekend, UCA, St. John's, Western Kentucky. You play USF in Tampa on Monday, deal there. And then you go to the spring games in Leesburg. You got Illinois, Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State. You go on to A&M. You challenged yourself with going, the scheduling wise, going to A&M and that. But how much of that is because you have this experienced group that can handle a tough non-conference like that?
Well, you know, when you sign up for those tournaments early on, you never really, it's a grab bag as to who you're going to get. But I personally have always liked a really tough preseason schedule because, when we get in the Big 12 conference, it doesn't get any easier. So
Sure.
I just think if you're going to be able to play with the best, you got to compete with the best. And, we may take some tough losses early on, but I think they're good challenges that will just help us prepare for conference.
Let's talk about this team, and I want to start in the circle because that's always where it begins. You got Casey Hamilton, obviously, which we've talked about, but Lizzie Ludwig was an all Big 12 freshman last year, was a tremendous in the circle there among the other arms. Just tell us a little bit about your pitching staff as a whole, led by Hamilton and Ludwig and the rest.
Well, Lizzie's a prime example of just youth last year. She didn't get a lot of innings early on. She was coming off of a kind of an injury. And so we were kind of careful with her heading into the season last year, but she finished out really, really strong for us. And so that experience just alone and that just having a year of experience under your belt it's priceless, really. So I certainly expect Lizzie to have a really big role for us, obviously, along with Casey Hamilton. And to be real honest, Katie Brooks, still, she only gave us like 59, 60 innings last year, but she's also battled some injuries. And this year's the first year we're going into the spring where she's had a complete fall with us of being healthy. Addison Purvis is in a good place. We've got another senior coming back, and it's Savannah De Roger, who brings a different look for us and just a tremendous compete factor, which I love. But I just think our depth in general, I'm just very excited about our pitching staff and the different looks that we're going to be able to give some people. We just hired a new pitching coach, Laura Heberling, who's doing a phenomenal job with our pitchers right now. And mainly there's kind of them just getting the confidence that they need. I mean, obviously, we've got some work to do in the next 3 weeks to get ready for the big teams that we're about to face. But I just think we're just in such a better place. Again, I mean, we've had this pitching staff, Hamilton, Katie Brooks, Sav, those kids that have been with us now for 4 years. And so they're ready to go. And I think the expectation, the standards that we have for our program have just continued to excel, and we've continued to raise the bar, and we're ready to compete.
I can sense that in your voice. And by the way, you're now become you know how this podcast game works because I was about to ask you about your new pitching coach, Laura Heberling. So just I want you to expand on that. What went through the thought process that you felt she was the right person for this job to handle this pitching staff?
Well, obviously, she comes with a tremendous amount of experience, which is just huge having that at this level. She was very successful at Maryland last year. They competed, ironically, they opened up with Oregon last year, I think, in Puerto Vallarta. So, she's been in those big games, and she's found ways to get pitchers to really compete as a staff, and that's what I love. But I spent about an hour on the phone with Laura, and I knew right away. I mean, just from a personality standpoint, it was a great fit for me. I mean, she just brings a lot of energy, really, really positive coach in the way she goes about her business. And so far, just in the last week of 1 week of practice, I just have seen a different change and a different level of confidence for our pitchers, and just excited to see her work. I mean, her knowledge, and she's a coach with a lot of experience who really kind of thinks outside the box and is ahead of the curve, and just in terms of staying on top of what the latest greatest is when it comes to pitching. And I love where she's at, and I love the experience she's going to bring to our pitching staff.
And it sounds like it's fit in already because it's been a few months. So there's that adjustment period, but it seems like it's gone smooth from that standpoint, and learning the players and the players learning her style.
Oh yeah, she jumped right in and didn't miss a beat. I mean, that's what I love. And I mean, she's very confident in that. And if she wasn't, she sure faked it because I would never have known. But she really, she's just already, I mean, she's a relationship builder, which is very similar to my style of coaching. You know, I mean, you got to build relationships with players if you're going to get them to buy into what you're teaching and coaching. So if you want to coach them hard, they've got to be able to trust you and understand and have confidence in you as a leader. So she's already established that with our pitching staff, which I love. And you know, and I just think overall our staff's in a really good place, good mindset, and we're ready to help lead this program.
Is this the healthiest and deepest pitching staff you've had since you've been there?
100%. You know, we have seven on our pitching staff, and shoot, as you know now, I mean, especially early on in those preseason tournaments when you're playing 5 games in a weekend, that's a lot of innings to really put on one or two pitchers. So, you know, we need a staff. We have to rely on some depth in the circle. I mean, we have Olivia Bruno is kind of another little bit of a surprise, I think, because she's been a pitcher. She did not get many innings at all for us last year. She was really just first baseman, you know, power hitter for us in the circle. Sorry, in the box, but she's worked really hard in the last year, and she's mentally in a different place right now, and she's really progressed well with not only just as a player but as a pitcher. So I even expect her to give us some truly quality innings this season.
That's big, considering with her bat too. She had 9 home runs last year, and that's a good segue to talk about the offense. Obviously, you got Bruno back, 9 homers, 26 RBIs. You got Moore, who is an all-region player as a catcher, hit 305, slug 520. Just talk about your offense and the identity this year, and some of the players that will be a big part of that.
Well, once again, I think the experience is going to really come into effect with our offense. I mean, last year we just simply missed on timely hits. I mean, we just didn't have enough RBIs to win some of the close ball games that we should have won. I mean, we would set ourselves up and be in the right place and not get the timely hit. And I think that's just been our approach this fall of really finding a way to compete with two strikes and to be better mindset of what we're looking for and get the outcomes that we're looking for. I mean, Olivia Bruno is a prime example. I mean, obviously her and Olivia and Lyric Moore are two players you want in the box when the game's on the line. And those are players that both had, you know, mid 20s for RBIs, and they probably ought to be in the 40 plus range for us. So we're really depending on their power and you know, their experience now to help us. We're bringing in Haley Kripe was a freshman for us last year who got some quality time, but not. She just truly needed a year of experience, but she'll probably be our starting shortstop. And just I tell you, I am very excited about that kid. She just has the potential to be a big time player. I mean, she has the right mindset, the work ethic, and she also brings power to the plate. Um, you know, returning a fifth year, Ashlyn Anderson, she's been a starter for us for 4 years. So having her experience on the field will be significant. And then, you know, we'll fill in those holes with some other kids that are bringing us some really quality at bats. You know, lead off with Presley Limbaugh, who brings some speed. Um, you know, I'm just Addison Purvis, another power hitter kid that not only does it, you know, she's got some good velocity number, she'll bring us in the circle, but at the plate, she's got power. And again, she transferred here a year ago, and I think she just needed a year with us to just kind of establish herself and really just get some confidence. And she's swinging the bat really well right now and did a really good job for us in the fall. So excited about what she's going to be able to potentially bring to us as a hitter.
Yeah, with this experience of a group, you still have some new faces. How many of those new faces you feel can contribute, and who are some names that, because you've had since you've been there, there's always a new kid that kind of pops up, like Lindsay Ludwig last year. Who are those kids this year that you think might have a role here to help you succeed?
Well, I will start back with that sophomore class that we have this year because they were all freshmen last year, which was a really solid group. I mean, all of them brought something special, and you know, and quite a few of them got a lot of experience. So this will be year 2 for them, even though they're fairly young. I just think that year of experience, they're already that what they've done this fall has been really exciting. Campbell Bagshaw is a sophomore for us who did not play much at all. She's primarily a first baseman. She can play second, but offensively, she put the work in this summer and this fall, and I think she's going to really add to our offensive sophomore class group, along with Cripe and Ainsley Linda, Presley Limbaugh. But our freshman class, we brought in 4 freshmen: Cadence Stafford, and September Flanagan. She goes by Gigi, but the two of them played for a really, really solid Iowa Premier organization, had a great summer. They are very athletic, so they both are very strong defensively. I think September Flanagan has a chance to get some quality at bats for us. She's got a really great eye at the plate. But the other two, Anna Souls is a pitcher, a lefty pitcher for us. I think she's probably going to, quite honestly, need some time just to continue to develop as a pitcher. But offensively, she brings a lot of power as a lefty power hitter at the plate. But she can swing it. So I'm excited about that. And then Abby Carsley is definitely a kid I think has flown under the radar, played for a team out of Oregon that we picked up really late. She's a catcher and she's got some sneaky power as well. So all 4 of those kids bring some pop um, to the plate. And I think, again, it's just going to be about getting a little, slowly getting that experience, one game at a time, getting those quality at bats in. So I just think they're going to be big time players for us moving forward.
Talking to you here and hearing your voice, this feels like the deepest team you've had there. The roster that maybe the first roster you feel the most confident in and comfortable with. Because we talked in the past when you've been on, you've had some injuries, maybe some depth, and as a result, some of the depth the lack of depth got exposed because of that. I sense that you feel you've got that with this group in particular covered. Am I accurate in that?
100%, Eric. I mean, we're deep defensively. This is the most athletic group I feel like we've had in terms of just depth. And my players know that. That's what's kind of fun about it, is they're pushing on each other in practice every day because they know, if they're potentially starters right now, that hey, if they're not getting the job done, we make a change and we don't miss much, and obviously there might be some changes from an offensive standpoint that are keeping some kids in the lineup or out of the lineup, from a depth standpoint. But defensively, we're really, this is probably the first year I can say we're really solid 2 deep in every position. So that's exciting for me, because I'm such a defensive minded coach anyway. So I'm fired up about our defense. We're athletic. Angela Price is a senior this year for us, who will probably be starting in center field, who was out with Tommy John's last year. So her arm looks fantastic. And her compete factor is she's like an extension of me. Like, I mean, she's just like my kid. When she's on the field, I connect so well with her. So I think she's going to be a senior that's returning for us, who's kind of playing with a bit of a chip on her shoulder because she's not really had the opportunity to get that done in the past, with some injuries, some other things that have happened to her outside of softball. So yeah, I am fired up about this group and fired up for our senior class. There's 8 of them. And, quite honestly, when we talked in the fall about looking at what we were going to do about our captain situation, the seniors like, Coach, we got this. This is our team. We want to put this team on our back and let's go. So I'm fired up about it because their leadership has been really strong, and their mentality is right where it needs to be. And they want to be good and they want to push on each other, and they're cheering for each other too, which is, that's really helped our chemistry so much. I mean, we're not, each, they want the person to the left and person to the right be just successful as they are. So that's exciting. I think the mentality is that we want to put the best line on the field that's going to find a way to win. And if somebody's not getting done and we make a change, that person's going to be ready when they get their name called.
Who are the lead? I mean, you have leaders clearly. Who are the leaders, and how do they lead? Are they leaders by example? Or are they leaders vocally?
That's a great question. Lyric Moore has always been a leader, both on the field, off the field. She's just a vocal leader. She brings so much passion to the game. So she's a really fun player to watch, and she's very passionate about what she does. So that's just comes very natural for her. I think Casey Hamilton is in a really good mindset this year as a pitcher. I mean, she has always been a tremendous just overall athlete and competitor. So she's tired of losing, quite honestly. That's just her mentality. It's like, let's go. She expects more out of herself, and she expects a lot out of her teammates. She wants to leave this team better than she found it. So she's in a really good frame of mind. Angela Price, the one I talked about probably being a center fielder for us, will also be a really just an emotional leader, because she's really feisty and fiery and has just gritty, fun to watch kind of kid. She's not a power hitter, but she's a kid that, quite honestly, I'm excited to see in the box when a game's on the line, because she's going to put the ball in play. She runs a bases well. And so I'm just, I've always been a coach that's like, be a team that's fun to watch. When people are coming back to the game and they are having fun sitting in the stands and they're excited about watching this team play, then you're doing something right. So I think we're just in a really good place with that emotionally, and finally physically in the right place to get it done.
And of course, you got that tough non-conference schedule, and then you mentioned the Big 12, a unique year in the Big 12. Obviously, with Oklahoma and Texas in their final year, but you got UCF, Houston, BYU in their first year. You're gonna open up in Orlando against UCF, but just talk about the league as a whole this year, because there's so many interesting plot lines this year that I think is going to create some exciting softball and a lot of intrigue within the league.
Oh, I think it could be a crapshoot, to be real honest. I mean, things the dominoes could fall a lot of different ways, I think, for us in our Big 12 conference. It's tough all the way 1 through 10. So I mean, bringing in, obviously UCF has had a lot of success. So there's no doubt they're a scrappy team that's going to compete. They're going to get some big wins. But I'm hopeful we match up really well with them. I mean, I'm excited to get started with them down in Florida, but no doubt BYU just, their resume speaks for itself as what they've done in the past. They've always had a really, really strong program. So, and then there you got Houston that's brought in a ton of transfers that are just a bunch of really athletic kids. So depending on the chemistry, I think of that team, they could be hot or cold. I mean, and so, and then we're going to continue. I know it's probably a bit of a rebuild year for OSU, but no doubt Kenny's going to put a great team on the field to compete. So, and then Baylor, they didn't really lose anybody. So if they come back and they're healthy, I think they could also. They're a team that never lays down. So I just think when you really look at our conference as a whole, I mean, no doubt. I mean, OU's still a big ringleader and going to do what OU does, but I think Texas is returning a really strong athletic group as well. So it's tough. There is not a game, not an inning you're going to take off, not a day you can take off, and not a day you can't go out and just find a way to compete your tail off to win. I mean, that's what it's going to take. And so again, that's why I just think your preseason is significant. I mean, I know our record hasn't really always spoken very highly for itself. I mean, last year with only 25 wins, it sucks. I'm not going to lie. I mean, that's not where we want to be as a coach. And it certainly doesn't look good on paper, but I think people that really know our program know me know that we haven't just gone out and played an easy schedule just to get the W's on the front end. We play the best, toughest schedule we can possibly be to set us up for a really tough conference. And if we can keep our RPI, above 40, then I think we got a chance this year to really put ourselves in place to get into postseason. So when I think about our conference as a whole, you're talking about, 6, 7 teams that could potentially be postseason teams
Yeah.
as well. So I think that speaks very highly about what the Big 12 has continued to put on the table in terms of, teams in the. Obviously, I think the rankings already came out, but you've got what, 4 or 5 teams in the top 20, right?
Yeah.
Start off in the Big 12. So yeah, and weekend 2 for us is basically a Big 10 matchup. I mean, I think we're going to play handful of big teams out in the Leesburg tournament. So that'll be a good challenge for us. We got to go on the road and play at Nebraska this year. So, Missouri comes to us, which is exciting. That's always a good, rivalry that we set up for each other. But, there's no doubt we don't have any days off. That's for sure.
No, but if I'm a player, I'm excited about that kind of schedule because you're putting it in the players' hands in that, hey, we can accomplish all your goals because this is the type of schedule that gets you into an NCAA tournament, right? That gets you success, helps you get success within the conference and beyond.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, that's what, the committee has to do is really look at your body of work that you're putting in, the teams you're playing, and it's not always about the record as much as it's important, obviously, but the body of work that you're putting in early and the teams you're facing and the big wins that you're finding a way to get. So again, you got to play the best if you want to compete with the best. So that's got to be our mindset. I think this is probably the first year I feel like, with our group of true veteran returners, that they understand what that really looks like in the big picture. They finally have enough confidence of they got some of those significant key wins last year that they realize, all right, we're not the bad kids on the block anymore. We're pretty darn good, and I think they're ready to compete well.
Let's talk about a couple other topics in the sport. Pitch clock, 20 seconds this season. More instant replay. Some modifications to instant replay. What's your reaction to some of those rules or any other things that took place in the offseason?
Well, I like the pitch clock. I mean, I don't really love that we're having to put everybody kind of on a time frame, but I do think it will help speed up the game a little bit. There's just so many lulls in our game personally, and I just think it's been a change. It's gonna I Casey Hamilton is a prime example who has a tendency to be pretty slow in the circle. So it's gonna be a little bit of a change for her, but I'm hoping quite honestly, from a take on the positive spin with that is that it takes some of the thinking out of it and just like, all right, let's go. Because sometimes too much
Sure.
time just it's too much time just allows you to get bad thoughts in your head. So I am excited about the challenge of the pitch clock and just being able, I'm hoping we all have a way of doing that consistently. So it's not something kind of when instant replay came in a couple years ago, it was hit and miss at every school you went to. And I still don't think it's great, but I think it's way better than it was. And I like the fact that, we want to get the calls right. I like the fact that we've expanded some of the challenges we can do this year with kids leaving the base early and some things like that. I think some of the pitch calling with the leaping this year that's going to be interesting to see how umpires approach that just from a consistency standpoint. But, at the end of the day, you still got to put the ball in play. You got to score runs. You got to make plays. You got to be able to throw the ball and compete and leave the rest of the umpires control what you can control and don't get caught up on the things you can't.
No doubt. That's a great point on that. The other big story in the offseason, obviously, softball now officially back in the Olympics, Los Angeles 2028. What was your reaction to that? And now that it's finally there, and what are you intrigued to see and that needs to happen in the next 4 years to have a successful Olympics in Los Angeles to hopefully maintain the sport in the Olympics in Brisbane in 2032?
Well, there's no doubt we have the athletes in this country. And I think it's going to be, couldn't ask for a better place to have it than LA. And um, I think USA softballs continue to really prepare and put the right coaches in place to help lead our programs, which is exciting. And most importantly, I think it's given some of our kids that are in college right now start looking ahead like, okay, yeah, I might have a chance in 4 years, to really. So I'm hoping that the USA Softball organization, the leadership there will continue to keep an open mind as we get ready to prepare for the next 4 years to finalize those teams. But I'm so fired up, obviously, with softball being the first time in the Olympics in Atlanta. The hype and the excitement here in USA was phenomenal. I can only imagine what it's going to look like 4 years from now in LA. But it's an exciting time, and it should be in the Olympics. It's ridiculous that it's not. It's one of America's favorite games. I mean, how do you keep softball and baseball out of the Olympics? It's just mind boggling to me. I mean, I understand some of the logistic pieces, but most importantly, if I'm a young player playing softball right now and I'm dreaming, I have something to really truly dream about and kind of have some big time goals out there that might become reality for some really special young ladies someday.
I can sense that. I feel like you might be a fan in attendance that Olympics if you're able to make that swing by. I know that some of the other Olympia U.S. players, like I've talked to Laura Berg, Dot Richardson, Newman, they all telling me they're going to be there in L.A.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it, no doubt. I've had a lot of conversations with some friends about it. It'll be hard not to be there to support our USA team back in our own home turf, and the level of talent just keeps getting better every day. So I think it's going to be an amazing, amazing show for USA softball being in LA in 2028. So let's go.
Okay, well, that'll be exciting. But we'll focus for now on this year and the excitement this year. And my last question to you will be once you get going, you'll be in Clearwater, as you mentioned, in Florida the first couple of weeks. What are going to be some keys or maybe questions you have about this group that you can only find out playing somebody else in real competition that you think could be a key factor in the rest of the season?
Uh, I think we have to take our approach needs to be one game at a time, one inning at a time for that matter. Not getting caught looking ahead at future opponents, making sure that we find ways to do the little things right. When I say little things, I talk about short game, execution. When your name gets called, do your job. And that's the great thing about having a pitching staff. When you have seven pitchers, I think it takes a lot of pressure off of somebody like Casey Hamilton, who doesn't feel like she's got to throw every inning of every game to keep us in there. But I mean, I need some players to really step up and put this team on their back and um, just lead us with the right mentality and most importantly, not be afraid to fail. I think that's something we battled a little bit in the past of just the fear of failure and just lack of just team confidence to finish. I think last year we'd play 5 innings and we'd be in the lead and somehow find a way to lose in sixth and seventh. And this year we've got to find a way not to lose, but find a ways to win. And not just in the seventh, sixth and seventh, but find ways to hold that, you know, um, that not get on that big roller coaster ride. Most importantly, making sure we've just got a little bit of a roller coaster ride on occasion, but I'm excited. I mean, I think their mentality's right. And I guess the biggest thing I would just have to say is that they just have to keep believing in themselves because I saw that a lot more towards the end of our season last year. And I think now that's the biggest takeaway when we go back and reflect to what may look like for this team. That's where we're at now. They finally believe that they can win and they're ready to compete against the big teams.
Well, Coach, we look forward to seeing your team. I'm excited because you'll be in Florida a lot this upcoming year, so I'm going to run into you at some point this
Awesome.
year during one of the Florida trips. But thank you for taking the time to talk to us. As always, appreciate you doing that about talking about softball. And like I said, look forward to catching up with you in Florida. But thanks for doing this.
Great. Thanks, Eric. We'll see you in Florida. See you in a few weeks.